Hello and welcome to another Blender tutorial brought to you by Luwizart. It's your boy Manuel Okafo, and today we'll be looking at setting up an IK-FK switch inside Blender. So this is what we have here already. We have our basic geometry and we have our hand rig. And this hand rig has already been binded to the geometry. So before we continue, let's really look at what FK-IK switch basically means. If you're a beginner and this word is new to you, an FK basically means forward kinematics. And when you say forward kinematics, what you mean by that is a rig that works this way. Like this rig is a basic example of a forward kinematics. That means to pose it, you have to manually rotate all the joints to get a basic pose. Okay, so this was the method used forever till the IK system came out. And when you talk about IK, it basically works like this. You just need to select one bone, and then be able be able to pose the entire rig without manually having to adjust each joint. So these two different systems have their advantages and have times when they shine the most. And so most advanced rig or any good rig always have an IK FK switch to really give full control to the animator. So today I'm going to show you guys how to set that up in Blender. So it's quite straightforward. It's not really complicated to understand. So I've prepared like an annotation to explain it. So let's draw. What we need first of all is a deformer bone. So a deformer bone is basically what we have here. Deformer bones are bones that deforms the geometry itself. Okay, so that's what we have here already. So we are done with the first step. Okay. So the next setup we need is the FK setup because we don't want to be able to rotate the deformer bone. We want the driver bones, which are going to be the FK setup and the IK setup, to be able to be the controllers of the deformer bones. Okay, so let's keep going. So this is going to what the next bone setup we need is the FK bone setup. Okay, and finally we need an IK bone setup. So how this system works is with constraint you can be able to tell the deformer bone to follow the movement of the IK bone, and with constraint you can be able to tell the same deformer bone to follow the movement of the FK bone. Okay, but you need a unified system where you can just with one slider you can be able to control that parameter to tell you can control the parameter whereby you just say, if I slide this, I want the deformer bone to switch towards the IK, and if I slide it a certain way, I want it to switch towards the FK. So that's basically what we need to do in this tutorial. So you can click up the video. Okay, so let's get practical. So we already have our deformer, and now we need to create the FK setup. To do that, we just need to select these two bones and go into edit mode. Then we duplicate it and move it to another layer. Okay, this will be the FK setup. And we duplicate this one and move it to another layer. And this will be the IK setup. So the reason I'm putting these bones in different layers is just for organization purposes, so that we can be able to work without distraction from any other bones that we don't need to see. Okay, so the base settings for the FK setup is it's already set. It already works perfectly. We have this connected to the top bone and it works. So now we need to set up a constraint that tells the deformer bone to follow the FK setup. So let's do that. But before we do that, we can notice that it's quite hard to differentiate between these two bones. So let's make our life easier. So let's just create a simple circle and create custom shapes. So we can select the FK bone, that's what we're working on now, and go to the bone viewport and select this circle to be the custom shape. And we can just rotate X 90 degrees, scale it slightly. And if you have this copy attribute node enabled, and you can enable it by going to the preference and search for copy attribute. It comes by default with Blender. Okay, so we can select this and hit copy bone shape. Okay, so we can delete this. This is too big, so to fix that we can just scale it down slightly here. Okay, great. Now we can work with this so we're not distracted by the shapes. So what we want to do now is apply a constraint. So we want this bone to follow this bone, and we want this bone to follow this bone. So we select this particular bone. You select the bone you want to apply. You want to apply a constraint on another bone. So we select this one and shift select this one that we want to apply the constraint onto, and then hit Ctrl Shift C. This menu is going to pop up. It's a very fast way of applying constraints in Blender. And if we hit copy rotation and we rotate this, it's going to work, but this is not the efficient way to the default setting is not the efficient way to work with, especially when working with amateurs. So what you want to change is set its local space to work more efficiently. So that's the only parameter we're going to play with here, though we could play with the mix factor. That's, for example, we cannot rotate this bone anymore, and if we need to rotate it, we can just set this to add. But I actually don't want it to, I actually don't want us to be able to rotate this, so I'm going to set it to replace. So let's repeat same thing. We select this, copy rotation, local space. Okay, so we have it looking good. Okay, so let's move forward. But before we move forward, let's set up a driver that will automatically disable the constraint when we slide it, as I showed you earlier. So let's set up a custom property. We'll select this bone and make sure you're in this icon here, this bone icon. That's the third to the last, and you want to scroll down and find custom property, and you want to hit add. So for the property name, we'll call this FK/IK switch. Okay, and yeah, so hit OK. That's all we need. And this particular switch, if we bring out the tool menu, this is a switch that we use to control the FK and IK, just this parameter. So let's set it up. So we want to select this bone that we have applied the copy rotation constraint, and here we'll add a driver, and we can leave it as scripted expression. For the expression, we want to set this to var, and the reason I'm doing that is because the name of the variable is var. So if this is set to boy, you want to copy and paste the same name here. Okay, so that's basically how it works. And we need to switch the variable type to single property. This is the type of variable that allows you to use the custom property. For the object, we'll select the hand rig. So now we have a parameter that we need to fill, which is the path parameter. So for this, to get that, you need to just select the bone that you apply the custom shape, the custom property to, which is this one, and right click and copy data path. Okay, so once you do that, and if we bring up the open driver editor, I'll just delete all this. Okay, so now we can just hand rig. Okay, so now we can just paste it here. So you copy the data path and paste it here. So once you do that, everything is set. And now if I select this and rotate, it's not working. But if we slide it, you can see it's working. Okay. Let's just copy this parameter. Let's copy this driver and just paste it here. So now if we rotate this, we can disable it through this. So all is good, and we can proceed to the next step. So for the next setup we need is the Iep setup. So this is the setup. So for the Iep setup, we need to do some extra stuff. So let's extrude an Iep handle, because you need an handle to be able to use the Iep setup. And we also need another handle here to be able to control the elbow. So you just move it in a straight line. And you want to select this tool and hit Alt-P to clear parent. And you can parent this either to the main root controller or the chest controller. So now selecting this and shift selecting this, we can hit Shift I, and this is to add the Iep constraint. And we can just increase the chain length to 2 because we have 2 bones. And now if we move this, you can see we have the Iep setup. So for the elbow, we want a system whereby we can just easily move the elbow. So we'll do the same thing, select it and hit Shift I, and set the chain length to 1 because we just want it to affect just 1 bone. And now if we move this, we have the Iep. Before we proceed, let's select, since all these bones, since the Iep setup is just a driver bone, it's not meant to deform the geometry, we need to tell Blender that. So if you select all the bone and hold on Alt and click, if you click on this bone and click on the uncheck the deform, so that Blender is going to ignore this bone anytime it's calculating for deformer bones. And also when you're trying to export it, this also helps speed up your workflow. Okay, so everything is set up and we can proceed from here. So what you want to do now is enable all the bone layers. And I think we need to be able to see this more. So let's, just for visibility's sake, we can go to this objects panel, and in the visibility, you go to this running guide and search for viewport display. So we want to change the bone display type to B bones. Okay, and want to select all the Iep setup and just hold down Control Alt S, and we can scale this so that we can be able to easily differentiate it between. We can be able to differentiate the bones so we don't get confused. Okay, so now we need to do same thing with the copy rotation constraint. So now what we need to do is select this bone, shift select this, we can do that, and Control Shift C, copy rotation, local space. Okay, and let's do that again. Control Shift C, copy rotation, local space. Okay, and now it's going to move by default. Okay, so now let's create a switch that we can flip it on, we can turn it on and off. So for that, we can just easily copy this constraint and paste it here. Okay, and we'll do the same, copy and paste it here. So they are all using the same drivers, and that's not what we want. We want so I want by default, it's by default in the value of 1, that's the in the value of 0, that it's set to an FK, and when you increase the value to 1, it becomes an IK. So but now we don't have that, right? It's just set to nothing. Okay, nothing is working, so let's fix that. So to fix that, let's select the right bone, and in the then you make sure you select the first one and go to the driver, open driver editor. Okay, so we'll select the first one and go to the, because right now the influence is set to 0. It's set to 0, and I want when this is set to 0, then this is set to 1. Okay, but right now it's set to 0, so we want to fix that. So if we select this and go to generator, it's gonna give us this parameter, and if we set this to 1 and set this to -1, so it's working now. So I just flipped it -1 by 1. Now if we set this to 1, this is going to become 0, and if we set this to 0, this is going to become 1. Okay, so now let's just copy this and paste it here. Okay, so everything is working, and we can even go ahead and hide this bones, or just disable it from here. But I need this one. I need this one. I'm going to move this to the first layer, and I can just disable this one. So we end up with this. And I can switch it back to the default bone style. And we can actually go ahead and hide this too. So this is what we end up with. So if we rotate it, it's working, and we can switch it, and it's working. So everything is working now. So we have everything working as it's meant to be. By default, it's set to 0. Okay, and you can use the FK to just easily pose the bone. Okay, and then you can
switch it to IK, and you can use the IK to pose the bone. So that's the number one step, and we have successfully achieved that. So now this is where things will get a bit tricky, because there's no straightforward way of achieving this. So for example, I pose the hand with this IK controller, and I want this FK controller to snap automatically to I want this FK controller to snap to the current rotation and location of the hand, so that I can have seamless animation. Okay, so let's try to set that up. I've gone ahead and created another property, and that property is snap to IK, and I'm going to create another one, and this is going to be snap to FK. And for the property value, I'm going to set it 1, and the reason I set it 1 is I want it to be like an off and off switch, so I don't want any in between values like 0.05, 0.09. I want it to just be integer numbers. I want it to be I just want whole numbers. So if I set it to 1.0, I'll be getting like decimal numbers, but if I set this to like 1, I'm getting integer numbers. Okay, so I'm setting it to 1 and hitting OK. So basically the snap to FK is going to enable me that when I have the IK rig set, then if I enable this, it's going to snap the IK rig to the FK, and if I have and vice versa, this is going to snap the FK to the IK. Or I should just give it a better name, so I'll call this snap IK to FK. So I think it's a more appropriate name, and this will be snap IK to FK. Then this will be snap FK to IK. Okay, so everything is all set. So now let's set up the system. For snapping the IK to the FK, we don't need that. So we don't need rotation. We need to copy the location instead, because the IK is being controlled by this. So what we want to do is we'll select this bone. Okay, shift select this one. So we're selecting the hand bone because it's the closest to this one. Okay, and we are selecting this one and telling it to copy the location of this one because it's the closest to this one. Okay, so now if we select this and shift select this and do copy location and leave it at word, okay, and you can click on offset. Sorry, forget the offset, and we can do the same thing, copy location. Okay, so that's the basic setup. Now if we rotate this, the IK is following along. Okay, so we need a system that we can automatically switch it on and off. So let's set that up. So IK to FK, so copy data path, and then we add driver, show driver editor. So you know the drill. We'll set this to var, select the hand rig and switch this to single property and just paste it. Update dependency, and now we can switch this on and off. So we can rotate this, and if we do snap IK to FK, you can see it's snapping it to the appropriate position. Okay, Okay, so we have solved the first issue, and we're going to run into some problems soon. But this is a victory for us. So let's copy this, copy driver, and paste driver. So everything is good. It's working as it's meant to work. So let's do for the snap FK to IK. So for this, we're going to switch the main controller to the IK. So for this, we need the rotation. So I'm going to unhide this IK controller. So let's clear the rotation of this. So now I want this, I will select this and shift select this and do control shift C, copy rotation, and then we do local space this time, and set it to, we can leave it as replace, that doesn't matter. And also we'll do the same thing, copy location, we do the same thing, copy rotation, local space. So that's that. So let's set up the switch. So for the switch, we can copy this, or let's just do it from scratch, and we copy the data part, and then we can add the driver, hand rig, single property, we paste it and set this to var and update. And we can just copy this now and paste it here. So if we move this and we tell this to snap it, it's going to snap it. Okay, so let's talk about the problems that we are going to run into for sure. So this snap IK to FK and snap FK to IK, these two parameters are not made for animation. Yeah, these two parameters are not meant for you to animate, because it's quite useless and it's not animatable. You don't need to animate them. You just need this to be able to snap the FK and IK to the you just need them for snapping. Okay, so let me tell you what I mean. So if I set this to 0 and I want to pose the hand, so now I have it with an FK. Okay, and now we want to snap the IK to FK, so we have snapped it, right? So as you can see, snapped. That delay was just something to do with dependency, but it works. And now we cannot really move this. So since we have snapped it and now we go ahead and turn it off, you can see it's going to return back to the original position, and that's not what we want. We need it to still remain in this position. So to do that, all we need to do is select these two bones, okay, and hit Ctrl A, and we do apply visual transform to pose. Okay, so once you do that, and make sure you clear the rotation and scale of it, apply visual transform to pose, and now we can turn this off and switch it, and we have it working. So let me repeat that again. So we have this set to FK and we rotate it. Okay, and now we snap to, we can even hide this since we don't need this. So we snap it now to the, we snap the IK to the FK, right? So the next step is to select these two IK bones and just hit apply visual transform to pose, and now we can disable this. So with that we can enable the IK switch, and we have it working. So we can repeat this same thing to, for the we can do the same thing for the FK to IK. So if we set this to 1, which is IK, so it's working and everything is looking good. And let's say we have this posed like this, okay, and we need this to be snapped here. And so for that we need to select this bone, clear the rotation and scale, clear the rotation, okay, and now we can select this and do snap FK to IK. So it's going to snap that, and we can select them and do apply visual transform to pose, and we can turn it off, and it's working. Okay, so for a more practical example, let's create an animation. So now we have our FK enabled, and we can just select everything and insert keyframe in the first frame like you would do in any animation. And you also want to insert keyframe for the FK IK switch. So for all the key poses, you want to make sure you insert keyframe for the FK IK switch. So for here we want to rotate this, and we can insert keyframe for that, and we'll also insert keyframe here. So this is what we have. You could even create some overlapping action. Okay, so we have this cool animation made with the F key, and now the next animation is to the next stuff is to convert to switch it to IK now. So let's make sure we are inserting keyframe for the FK and IK switch in every key pose, pose that we create. Okay, so next, what we want to switch it, we can just snap. Let's snap this. We snap the IK to the FK now. Okay, and we just select all the IK poses. We can move to another frame already, so we can select all these IK bones and just hit Ctrl A, apply visual transformation to transform to pose. Okay, so once you do that, it's going to apply the transform, and now we can just clear this, and here we can just insert keyframe, and at this point we can easily just switch it now. So the IK, so the reason that's happening is because of we are getting a snap action. So we want it to just in one frame switch between the two. We don't want it to overlap like this. Okay, so in this frame we'll go one frame backwards and set this to 0. So this is what we have. So it's going to just switch here. It's not going to switch the entire frame. So this is what we have. Okay, and we can just raise this up. Okay, so now we can move the IK and just pose everything nicely. Create some in between action. Okay, so now from this point we want to convert, we want to switch it back to the FK. So for that, same drill. So here in this keyframe we can select this, we can insert all the keyframe, and here we can clear the rotation out for the FK bone. Okay, insert keyframe, and even move forward to the next frame. Before we do that, we need to also insert keyframe here for the FK and IK switch. Okay, and here we can do the snap to FK, and we can apply the visual transform. Insert keyframe, and we can switch this now to 0. And a frame before that, we'll make sure it's set to 1, so it has switched already. And now we can play with it. Okay, so that's it. You have it switching nicely, and you can hardly notice the switch between the two setup. Yeah, so that's the tutorial. I'm really happy it went successfully. Yeah, so I know it's not a straightforward process. Probably you can write a script that will do this just with one button, but for most of us that don't have the luxury of that, so this is the way to go. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. If you wish to see more from me, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit like on this video. Okay, so bye bye for now. See you next time.